This is the quick instruction video for the so-called in-class exercise on Zhuangzi and philosophical storytelling. Now, during your reading this week, you'll have noticed that much of the Zhuangzi consists of these short anecdotes intended to prove a philosophical point. Normally in Chinese, we call these yuyan, or allegories in English. Now, as you remember from the video lecture, the word yuyan is actually used in the Zhuangzi to talk about the book's own method of writing. That has a somewhat different meaning than what Mandarin means by yuyan nowadays, or what English means by allegory. In other words, in the book of the Zhuangzi, the word yuyan is not meant just to indicate any story used to teach a philosophical lesson, but rather a lesson put into the mouth of a fictional or a historical character. Now, these philosophical stories are meant to get around one of the basic problems of this book. The Zhuangzi is suspicious of language's ability to prove philosophical arguments. But then, how can this be communicated to readers except through language? This book doesn't even try to use careful, logical language to fix this problem. Instead, it uses strange, poetic language and these yuyan, these little stories, to get its point across. The idea behind this is that since language isn't reliable to describe the world exactly and carefully and logically, one has to be more indirect and maybe more imaginative and creative in how one communicates. So, just as a reminder example, here's one of the quick little yuyan that we read. Knowledge wandered north to the banks of the black waters, climbed the knoll of hidden heights, and there by chance came upon Do Nothing, Say Nothing. Knowledge said to Do Nothing, Say Nothing, there are some things I'd like to ask you. What sort of pondering, what sort of cogitation does it take to know the way? What sort of surroundings, what sort of practices does it take to find rest in the way? What sort of path, what sort of procedure will get me to the way? 3 questions he asked, but Do Nothing, Say Nothing didn't answer. It wasn't just that he didn't answer, he didn't know how to answer. So as you can see, this is a cute little story which makes the point that language ultimately isn't a reliable way to lead one towards the ultimate truth. Now, the goal of this week's exercise that you'll do in a minute is to just help you think about this strategy of indirect communication by the Zhuangzi and to decide whether or not it's a good way to try to communicate philosophical ideas. You'll be asked to write one paragraph using a short anecdote similar to the Zhuangzi's yuyan to express the idea that language is unreliable. This is not a timed exercise. You only have to write 150 to 200 words, so it's pretty short. Just be sure to make sure that your philosophical anecdote tells a story about how difficult it is to use language. Then, as with the other so-called in-class exercises, be sure to go and click yes on the question that asks, "Are you done?" Only if you click yes will the system process your response so that you can actually receive credit.